Hello Planet Internet, I'm Emperor Cole and this is Emperor Cole Film Review brought to you by MindbenderENT.com. And today I'm here to review the 2017 remake of It, directed by Andy Muschietti, written by Chase Palmer, Cary Fukunaga, and Gary Dauberman, and of course based off the Stephen King novel by the same name, It. Everybody, let's keep our deepest, darkest fears to ourselves and let's get this journey going together. Let's do it! So first and foremost, let me say that when I first heard they were doing a remake to It, I was very opposed to it because I didn't think it was going to be done right. I originally remember seeing the original miniseries back when I was in like the 3rd grade. I was probably maybe 8, maybe 9 years old. And you want to talk about a very, very scary miniseries that stuck with me as a child. It's a little bit different seeing it now as an adult because it doesn't have the same effect. Although this movie is scary, it's not terrifying like the original one was to me. Now, that may be the difference between seeing something when you're 8 or 9 years old as opposed to seeing it when you're in your 30s. Now, with that being said, there is still some very scary stuff that happens in this film. I would not allow my own kids to see this movie unless they were at least about 12 or 13 years old and they could handle watching scary movies. So as an adult, it probably won't scare you as much, but if you're a kid, this is definitely going to be terrifying. Why? Because there's a clown that specifically feeds on children. This movie surprised me with how much it actually focused and dealt with the relationship with the kids, and it definitely was more of a character piece than I expected it to be, where the movie takes its time to develop its characters. It shows you the things that these kids are dealing with in Derry, Maine. It shows them interacting with the world around them and showing how they're interacting with each other and their relationships with each other. Where they're dealing, some scenes you see them dealing with bullies, other scenes you see them dealing with adults around them in their life, like parents and their expectations of what they expect them to be doing and how they expect them to be growing up and what they want them to be into. And then we have, of course, the other scenes where we see them dealing with this crazy clown creature, It, which is randomly showing up and scaring the bejeebas out of them. Unless you were the coolest kid growing up from about age 9, 10 to about 14, 15, I think everyone can find something in these characters that they can relate to for themselves of about that age. And what I mean is, each character has something that they're dealing with that's very familiar, that seems to be a theme that all children experience. For example, we have Ben, who's the fat kid, and he's also the new kid who's been there for about a year or so, and he doesn't have very many friends. So Ben hangs out in the library and does a lot of historical research. We find out that Ben has this crush on Beverly, and he even writes this poem to her. She likes the poem so much, but as things turn out oftentimes, she's not really into Ben, she's into Bill. So since she likes Bill, she thinks Bill wrote her this nice poem that she recites to herself and she gets all happy about it. So Bill gets the credit for the poem and her feelings and affections are towards Bill. I think that's something that everybody experiences at some point or another in their life. They want somebody who wants somebody else. Then we have Mike, the young black kid who doesn't want to be a sheep herder, or he doesn't want to kill sheep with the sheep gun. We have his uncle who gives him a stern talking to and basically tells him, either you're going to kill the sheep or one day you're going to be in a position where somebody's going to put that gun between your eyes and you're going to be the person getting hit. It says something to that effect, but that's him being forced into a line of work that he doesn't necessarily want to do. I think a lot of people can relate to that at some point or another. We have the character Stanley, who's also dealing with that same thing when he's reading from the Torah and he doesn't know the passages very well or he doesn't know the psalm, and his father tells him how's it going to look if, I think his dad's a rabbi, he tells him my own son doesn't even know this stuff. So this is his religion being forced on him. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And then we have Beverly. Beverly has all these rumors going around the school that she's having sex with all these different guys. The girl can't be any older than maybe 13 or 14 years old. So it's strange that she's dealing with all that, but I'm pretty sure that's something that a lot of females who might be more attractive or who may be a little bit more physically developed than others at certain ages start to get those kind of rumors going on about them. And when the movie opens up with the scene where, of course, Bill is sick in bed and he's getting the boat made together for his brother Georgie so he can go outside and play during the rainstorm, of course I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why in God's name would anybody allow a child 7 or 8 years old to go outside by themselves when it's pouring down raining? But of course it's a movie, you gotta kind of just let that stuff go. But the director did a very good job at building tension in this scene and throughout the entire movie where you know something ominous, something bad feels like it's getting ready to happen. We had the scene where Georgie goes down into the basement, and that's kind of like just capturing what a child would normally be scared of. He goes down to the basement, it's dark, and of course he's fearful, like, you know, his imagination's on him, and of course nothing happens while he's in the basement. Most people have a natural fear of basements or attics where, because it's dark and you can't see a whole lot, or I guess they just feel more creepy than the rest of the house. So I thought the director, Andy Muschietti, did an excellent job at capitalizing on that natural fear that is in place of pretty much everyone. I did not expect this movie to show scenes of violence with the kids, and I thought they did an excellent job at actually doing that. For example, the scene when we got poor Georgie when he reaches down in the sewer to try to get his boat, and Pennywise actually bites his arm. Unlike the original miniseries that came out back in 1990, you actually see his teeth go into his arm. And we see Georgie missing one arm where he tries to crawl away from the storm drain. And of course, Pennywise's arm reaches out, becomes crazy long, and snatches him down the vent. Now, that was something that I didn't expect to see. So I thought they did a very good job at going beyond what was expected and going beyond what's the norm. I like how we see that the disappearance of Georgie has affected Bill, in the sense that he has that one scene where he gets home from hanging out with his friends, or he comes home from school, and he has this whole diagram set up of the dairy sewer system, and his father sees him, and he's trying to tell him that, he thinks maybe Georgie's body washed out to a certain place, and Bill's holding on to hope that his little brother somehow is still miraculously alive. I'm guessing that's just being hopeful, obviously, because it's his brother, and his father you can tell his father's shaken by just the fact that he even has the whole thing set up, and he tells him, you need to take this down before your mother sees it. So he sees how it's affecting the family. The idea that Pennywise's clown, manifests as whatever scares you the absolute most, whatever your deepest, darkest fear is, that's what it'll take the form and attack you as, is absolutely scary in itself. And I think that's part of the reason why the original series that was made back in 1990 and the book, I think that's why it scares people so much. And that's why I think this movie resonates with people on such a deeper, more primal level. So, for example, when we have Stanley, the young Jewish kid, and he hated that picture that was in his father's office, and it scared him so much. Then, of course, it comes at him as this terrible-looking woman with this crazy, deformed face, and that was very scary. So then we have Beverly and the blood that comes out of her sink. I think that represented her growing up and being a woman in her period, and I think that's the reason why that scared her so much, her actually having to grow up and become an adult. And then ultimately, in the end, I think that's the reason why it couldn't kill her when he eventually grabbed her. Beverly conquered her fears, and when she hit her father in the face with what looked like the top of the toilet cover, and she knocked him out, and then the clown shows up and grabs her. And ultimately, then, even though he took her to her lair, and he couldn't kill her, and he just had her hanging up there where she was like in that trance, she wasn't scared of him anymore, so he couldn't do anything with her. The reason why Bill always sees his younger brother Georgie is because Bill is feeling that the fear, the guilt associated with the fact that he sent his little brother outside and he made the boat for him. He sent him out by himself and basically feels like he sent his brother outside to die. Towards the end of the movie, when Pennywise grabs Bill and he gives the rest of the losers the option that he tells them, you guys can leave, and he'll just take Bill, he'll just kill and eat Bill, and you guys can grow up and live to be old and live long lives. I think the reason why Pennywise did that was because Bill was becoming unafraid of him. Just like in that scene where he manifested as George and he was trying to tell him, oh, Bill, I want to go home and see mom and dad. And he pulls out the sheep gun and shoots him in the head and lets him know it looks like he's starting to get over his fear. He's starting to get over his guilt of the death of his brother. And of course, Finn Wolfhard, playing the role of Richie, he has that great line where he says, Bill, I told you we were all going to get killed down here. He says, you dragged me down into this sewer in this gray water. I forgot what else. He says something else, and he says, and now I gotta F up this clown. Great line, excellent piece of dialogue, and of course, from there, they all start to attack Pennywise, and they're working together as a team, just like when Beverly told them they're stronger if they all stay together. So I enjoyed that scene a whole lot. So I thought Bill Skarsgård did an excellent job in this role as Pennywise. He was much more menacing and scary, and he was a little more serious in his portrayal as the clown than Tim Curry was, but that may just be the fact that he's starring in an R-rated film compared to a TV miniseries. If you're in an R-rated movie, you can do shit that is much more scarier than stuff that you can do when you're in a TV, made-for-TV movie series. He was very menacing, where when he popped up on screen, you knew it was about to go all bad. There wasn't going to be much in there that you were going to laugh at. It's going to be things that you found to be terrifying. There are some images of him with his mouth open with these crazy-looking teeth that you're definitely going to remember forever, especially if you are a kid. What I think were the absolute scariest scenes in the movie, I'm going to have to say, of course, the projector scene where they're all together and they all see Pennywise, where they're going through the different scenes, and I believe it's like old family photos of Bill with his family. And then, of course, we have the scene where it's supposed to be his mom, and then his mom's picture, instead of being her, it's Pennywise, and the hair shifts and we see the face. Then Pennywise comes to life and actually jumps out of the screen, and he's like just huge, giant size with these crazy looking teeth, and he's trying to get after them. That is the number one scariest scene in the movie. It's crazy because, of course, like I said, they all see him at the same time, which I believe up until this point, they all hadn't seen him together. Everybody had their own one-on-one experiences. So The second scene that I'd say is absolutely terrifying is the scene where Bill is going around the house and he thinks he sees his brother and he starts like trying to chase after him, trying to catch up with him. And of course, naturally, he ends up down in the basement, the spookiest, craziest part of the house. And he sees his brother in the corner and he's got his raincoat on and he keeps saying the line, "Oh, you'll float too. You'll float too." And of course, it gets crazier and scarier. And then we got Pennywise off to the side who kind of comes out of the water. And he comes up out of the water all crazy at this hyper speed coming towards Bill. That was intense. That looked nuts. Very scary. That's the type of thing where if I had a basement that looked anything like that, if I were a kid, I wouldn't want to go in the basement at all after you've seen this movie. And then the third scariest scene in the movie, in my opinion, was the part where the bully, where they get separated in the woods, and the bully ends up in the like sewer drain, and he's looking for Ben. He's trying to find Ben, and he thinks that he's down there, so he pulls out his, I believe he has like the lighter, and he has the can spray like he's gonna burn him. It's crazy how far the bully was going, but still. So we got this kid roaming around. I can't remember the bully's name, but he's roaming around by himself. And then he sees the kids who are missing, and they're like zombified, and they start coming after him. Of course, he turns down the wrong tunnel. He can't get out. He ends up against the bars. He turns around, boom, and it's Pennywise. He's the next kid who goes missing. So that scene was pretty scary in itself. The director of this film, Andy Muschietti, did an excellent job at building tension in each scene through his use of lighting and specific camera movement that is very subtle. It makes you feel like something bad could happen at any point in time, but it definitely kept the audience on edge. It kept you kind of worrisome and a little anxious that something bad was getting ready to happen. So, of course, this is a horror movie. I think he did a very good job with that. Also, I think this movie is a very strong adaptation of the source material, which, of course, is the Stephen King novel, It. This movie, from what I hear, is a little bit more faithful to the actual book in its portrayal of the characters and through the way the story develops through each particular scene. So excellent job by Andy Muschietti. He's got a very bright future. And at the end of the movie, all the losers stick together as Beverly and Bill suggested. They're fighting Pennywise and they're able to drive him back. They're able to hurt him because, of course, we're working together as a team. They're not scared. So it seems like he can't do very much with them when they're not scared. And they get him to retreat and he falls down the hole. And at least it looks like he's defeated for now. He says, it sounds like he says something about fear. He says the word fear and then he just goes. So they feel good about themselves. They feel like they beat him for now. But it seems like Bill knows that he might not be gone for good. It seems like Ben kind of knows too. So, of course, they all join hands out in the field. They make the blood pact that the pact that if he ever comes back, that they'll return to Derry. And, of course, you see each one of them kind of like disappear and fades away one by one. That's showing that they all leave and move on with their lives. Okay, so now it's time for me to give it a score on the Mindbender movie meter. I enjoyed this film significantly more than I thought I was going to. This movie has a lot more heart and much more character development than I imagined or I think anyone else did. It's definitely got scares in it, so it definitely has the horror going on as well. This movie is much more of a coming-of-age story than I thought it was going to be. There's significantly more character development and relationships around the kids than I thought there was going to be. It has the horror going on as well. It's about 55% a coming-of-age movie, and then another 45% of it, the other 45% is the horror. But the horror and scary stuff in this movie is definitely terrifying. It's definitely stuff that will scare you, especially if you are very sensitive to horror films. So, with that said, I enjoyed this film a whole lot. And I'm going to have to give this a score on the Mindbender movie meter of 91%. It, the 2017 remake, 91%. Okay, so this has been my film review of It. If you enjoyed this review, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Definitely make sure you check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Mindbender Entertainment. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at MindbenderENT. And of course, check out the website, mindbenderent.com. Also on the YouTube channel, make sure you check out my reviews for other films as well. Make sure you click the playlist and check them all out if you got time. Maybe grab yourself a beer or get something to eat and see what my thoughts are on several of the films that have come out recently. The future is now.